Yo, what is going on, everyone? So this week is Sanguine and Storming week, so I wanted to come at you with some tips and tricks to help you get through the Sanguine Affix. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. That way you get notified every time I go live with new Brewmaster content. So first things first, Sanguine, how does it work? So anytime you kill a non-boss enemy, they're going to drop a pool of Sanguine Ichor that heals other mobs that stand in it or walk through it, and it also damages any players who do the same thing, right? So these puddles last for 20 seconds. It used to be a lot longer, but it has been nerfed down, so it's just 20 seconds. And this can be a real hassle as it heals mobs immediately when they touch the Sanguine, and then every second that they're in there. So this can add up really quickly. And just like snowball and just cause so much extra healing and require so much extra damage to kill mobs. So as Brewmaster monks, we have access to several tools that can help us counter this aspects though. Starting off with our Mykonos, Kiri, and Soulbind. So you have the option to switch from the top path on the left to the top path on the right. This costs you that potency conduit, but it gets you access to the ability Charged Additive there in yellow. So this makes it so that whenever you use a Kyrian file, it knocks back any enemies that are in melee range for 2 to 3 yards. By no means is this required, but it is a nice extra way to knock casters or archers who are standing in Sanguine casting, especially if you don't have like Clash or a Interrupt up to get them out. So, and this is really nice too if you're dealing with like multiple mobs, because it's going to knock everything that's nearby you out. So this, again, it's super nice just when you don't have any of your other cooldowns ability, or maybe if you're pugging especially. Whenever I pug, I always take this because, you know, sometimes pugs, they try their best with their intentions, right? And sometimes they're stun happy or root happy, and they root or stun things in Sanguine, which is just not good. If you're playing with more of like a comp or a group that you normally run with, you probably won't need this one as much, as you'll most likely be in comms or just kind of be used to dealing with this stuff with your other people. So again, if you're pugging, this is great. If you are running with a regular group, it's something you can take if you're not as comfortable dealing with Sanguine, but if you feel like you don't need it, then you definitely don't need to take it. Alright, so now moving into our actual Brewmaster abilities. Our first baseline tool that we have through talents is Ring of Peace, which again is baseline when you're running keys. This is an amazing tool on a 45-second cooldown. It both will knock as many enemies as you hit with it, right, out of Sanguine, as well as prevent them from re-entering Sanguine, or if you're like in the middle of kiting, and you have Sanguine down right, you can just use it to completely prevent mobs from being able to enter into the Sanguine pool. So this is like the best tool that we have for Sanguine, and it makes so many other tanks just jealous that we have it on a 45-second cooldown. So it's great. Next we have Clash. This isn't as good as Ring of Peace, but it is super handy if you're trying to get a single caster out of Sanguine and you don't have like a kick up, right? On a 30-second cooldown, Clash makes you and your target charge each other and meet in the middle of your 2 locations. So like if you are math inclined, that's the midpoint, right there in the middle, right? This does have the requirement of being between 8 and 30 yards away from your target, and it's normally best used like 10 plus yards away. So generally, if I'm going to use this, I'll either roll or cheat torpedo out and then clash at the target to just pull it out of the Sanguine. Works pretty nicely. Or if you're just generally, you know, 10 or more yards away from a target, you can just clash it and pull it right out. Keep in mind that Clash won't work on any enemy that's stunned or like CC'd anyways, so rooted, parried, anything like that. Instead of meeting in the middle, you'll just charge it and it won't move. So keep that in mind when you're using it, especially with Sanguine Week. And then also for both Clash and Ring of Peace, those don't work on elite enemies. So like specifically the like captains at the beginning of Iron Docks, it's not going to work on those enemies. So keep that in mind. You can't move them with that, or you can't knock them around with Ring of Peace. Lastly, we have Provoke. Now you might be asking yourself, how is a taunt going to be helpful for us on Sanguine Week? But Provoke is different from every other taunt in the game when it's used on an enemy, because it actually causes them to gain a 50% movement speed buff for the duration of that taunt. This is extremely useful when you're kiting low health enemies. For instance, if you're kiting 2 enemies at the same time and one has, I don't know, like 10% more health than the other, if you taunt with Provoke the higher health enemy, you know, it's going to end up in front of the other enemy, and when that lower health enemy dies, it's no longer going to have to run through that pool if you're kiting it still, right? It's going to spawn behind it, meaning it doesn't take the initial tick from hitting it, and it doesn't take extra hits from running through it. Now, you could also use this if you're dealing with like a couple mobs and you've got like one low health one, right? You can taunt the low health one and start kiting, and as soon as it dies, you can roll or chi torpedo or transcend, right, the other direction, stopping all those other mobs from hitting the sanguine pool when it dies. So you've kind of got some options there. And honestly, think about that, you know, from a key long perspective, right? If you're dealing with all these mobs and even they heal just once from Sanguine in every single pack that you do, that's going to add up over the duration of the key to like 2 to 3, maybe even more minutes, depending on, you know, what the key is that you're doing. So when you're doing these push keys or higher keys that you're not as used to, or maybe you're trying to, you know, do for the first time, that is really going to be adding up and might actually end up being make or break. So it can definitely help you out in that way. So now that we know how Sanguine works and our tools that we can use, let's go ahead and take a look at how I handle Sanguine in the first few pools of Iron Docks this week. So in this first pack, you're going to be kind of aware because we've got the elite captain in here, right, that is not going to be affected by Ring of Peace, Clash, things like that. And then we also have 2 Deadeyes that they aren't casters, so we're not going to be able to interrupt and move them, and they kind of sit there shooting with their bows. So that's something that you want to be kind of aware of with this first pack here, especially when the Sanguine's coming and we're about to die. So you can see, right as I see that thing gets to low health, I immediately start kiting. I see that I've got my Deadeye standing in there, so I quickly Ring of Peace it out so it doesn't start healing that much. Now, after that, I kept the other 2 mobs apart from those 2, and then when one dies, I pull the other one in, and I keep myself between it and the 2 Deadeyes. That makes it so that when it dies, it's not going to drop the Sanguine on those puddles. And you can see as soon as we get done with this one, I'm going to move these, I'm going to Chi Torpedo, and then I'm going to try to clash that one directly out of the Sanguine. Ideally, I wouldn't have hit the Tornado and got knocked up, but it's Storming Week, so, you know, that's going to be expected sometimes. Now, this next pack, I do the 3-pack, and I wait for that other captain to come over. Now, keep in mind that there's 2 captains in here. There's the one I just pulled, which is a melee. You got your foot soldier, which is a melee. And then you've got the other captain, which kind of does melees, kind of does some like ranged abilities. And then you've also got the incinerator, which, you know, counts as a range. So these are all mobs that, again, as soon as I start seeing mobs get to low health, I'm going to start kiting so I can get them off of the mobs that stand still with their range abilities, right? You can see I pulled it out there, making sure none of them got hit. And then as these other mobs are getting low, I'm trying to make sure I keep the other ones off. Now, unfortunately, I'll bronze spawn and knock that one into the others, but I'm able to just adjust and move these mobs. Now, ideally, because these are 2 melee, I'd want, again, to try to kind of get in between them so that they don't drop Sanguine on top of each other, but I'm just kind of being aware, making sure to move this melee guy over and grab the next pack. Now, unfortunately, that one did heal, so it's coming in here, so that's something I have to be aware of as I'm dealing with this next pack. So I'm just knocking these away and then kind of trying to keep that guy out of the other packs. So I was able to do that successfully using Ring of Peace. Now, again, I'm trying to separate the casters from the melee here by trying to put my body between them. Again, doesn't always work, especially with Sanguine Storming Week, because the Storming knocks you up and then the foot soldiers are moving around. But, you know, just trying to prepare myself to move these things as they start to get low. Now, as they start to get low again, I'm going to start kiting so that we don't have the melee dropping Sanguine on top of the ranged different mobs. And then, you know, we use another Ring of Peace to knock that incinerator out of the Sanguine puddle. I'm going to pull this other guy kind of close. He's melee, the other guy's a range, so I put myself between the 2 of them, again, to stop them from dropping the Sanguine pools on top of each other. Now, this next pool is a little bit bigger. It's got another ranged ability and then a lot of melee in it. So I'm just going to pull it around and LOS it around that little corner there, just so it's away from the other mobs, and they're all grouped up. And just be ready to use our different abilities, right? This is a good pack, and so was the last one. If you are running that carrion file, knocking things away, that you could definitely use those, especially with the multiple like casters standing still with the, you know, shooting the Deadeyes and whatnot, and the incinerators, so you can definitely use that. So things are starting to get low again, so I'm going to again start being ready. You can see I start moving as soon as see things get low. Unfortunately, Tornado knocks me out, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep on moving. Luckily, the thing that died was the the mob, so that worked out for us. Now, unfortunately, my other monk tried to help out and knocked the caster straight into the guys that were dying, but that's okay. I just drop another Ring of Peace to move it out. And then again, as these ones are left, I'm just putting the melee on the opposite side of me from this caster. So I know that's not a whole lot of footage here for you, but as far as Iron Dogs goes, it's kind of like there's a lot of like quick mobs that die here. So I just want to kind of show you a couple different skills you can use. So, if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget you can also ring that bell, that way you get notified every time I go live with new Brewmaster content. So, if you have any questions or comments, make sure to put those down in the comments below. I do read all the comments and respond anytime that I can. And also, if you have any suggestions for content you'd like to see, whether it's from live keys or from the beta, please let me know. I take those seriously, and anytime I see something, if I like it or it's something that someone needs help with, I'll make a video to help you guys out. So anyways, that's it for me. I will catch you in the next one. See ya!